this video, we're going to be looking at using radian measure. So something that we've seen is angles that are measured in degrees, but also we can measure angles in radians. And usually before, when we were doing our calculator, we would switch it from radians to degrees, but radians is also something that we can use to measure angles. And a radian is a measure of an angle in standard position whose terminal side intercepts an arc of length r. So looking at this picture, I have this circle and I have this angle that is in blue. Here, my radius is length r. My arc formed by this angle is length r. And then we see that the measurement of this angle formed here would be 1 radian. And some properties that we have here that there are 2 pi radians in the full circle. So that means that 360 degrees is equivalent to 2 pi radians, and 180 degrees is equal to pi radians. And so we can easily convert between degrees and radians by multiplying by a certain measure. So if we wanted to convert degrees to radians, we would multiply by pi radians over 180 degrees. If we want to convert radians to degrees, we would just multiply by the reciprocal of that. So we would multiply by 180 degrees over pi radians. So let's go ahead and go through some examples. So here I want to convert the degree measure to radians or radian measure to degrees. So first I have 120 degrees. So for 120, since I'm wanting to change that to radians, since it's already in degrees, I need to multiply by pi radians over 180. So I'm going to multiply by pi over 180. So when I do that, I'm just going to multiply across. So I have 120 pi over 180. And then now I just need to go ahead and simplify that fraction. And so when I simplify that, 120 over 180, I should get 2 pi over 3. And I got that by dividing top and bottom by 60. And so my answer here would be 2 pi over 3 radians. In your homework, that pi is going to be off to the side, and so you can also write this as 2/3 pi. Okay, this next one I have negative pi over 12, and so this is in radians because there's no degree measure here, and I see a pi in there. And so to switch that over to degrees, I need to multiply that by 180 over pi. So multiplying across negative pi times 180, I get negative 180 pi over 12 times pi, which is 12 pi. And then I need to simplify this. I see that I have a pi on top and bottom, so that means my pi's cancel out. So I have negative 180 over 12. And then I want to simplify that, and if I do negative 180 divided by 12, I get negative 15 degrees. Okay, let's look at 2 more. So now I have negative 40 degrees, so I want to switch that over to radians now. So since I want to switch it to radians, I need to multiply by pi over 180. So when I multiply across, I get negative 40 pi over 180. And then now I need to simplify this fraction. So let's go ahead and just take this step by step. I see they both end in 0, so I know I can divide by 10 on top and bottom. And so when I do that, I get negative 4 pi over 18. And then I see that these are both even numbers. So I can divide by 2 on both, and I get negative 2 pi over 9 radians. Okay, and now this last one I see I just have the number 2. And so since I just have the number 2, that means that this is in radians. There's no degree that's on there, and so you automatically can assume that it's in radians. So I want to switch that over to degrees. So I'm going to have 2 times 180 over pi. So I multiply across and I get 360 over pi. And then if you put that in your calculator, you actually hit that pi button, do 360 divided by pi. Rounding that, you should get that this is approximately 114.59 degrees. And so down here, you'll just see a summary of the equivalent radian measures with degree measures, some common ones that you see. And so the degree measures here are in red and the radian measures here are in blue. So I see that 30 degrees is the same thing as pi over 6 radians. 150 degrees, same thing as 5 pi over 6 radians, and so on. So this can be handy to just have on hand whenever you need to switch between the two, of recognizing what those are all equivalent to. One thing that's especially good to recognize is the axes. So I see that 0 and 2 pi are over here. If I go 90 degrees, that's the same thing as pi over 2. If I go 180 degrees, it's the same thing as pi. 270 degrees is the same thing as 3 pi over 2, and so on. So that's a good thing to remember for later on.